Good afternoon, Vol Nation. Josh Griffin with the Volunteer Roadshow. Just wanted to hop on here and do a little summation video of what I saw from Jeremy Pruitt's time at SEC Media Days today. He took the podium at 2:30 p.m. this afternoon Eastern Time. Um, uh, Probably one of the more interesting things that you could note was that he took 21 and a half minutes in his opening statement. That's probably going to be a Media Days record for this year, if not all time. Um, I think for a guy who doesn't like to talk to the media a whole lot, he gave a big opening statement so that he didn't allot for a lot of time for questions from reporters. He doesn't like to speak to reporters. It's blatantly obvious. I think Catfish and I touched on this um, in the last episode that we did, and he did kind of the same thing last year. I don't think his opening statement was as long. He took a lot more questions, but he did talk to reporters a little bit before he took the podium, and I think probably the key bit of information that came out of that stint in the bullpen was that Trey Smith is not currently medically cleared to play. So there's been a lot of buzz flying around Media Days that Smith's already cleared and he's ready to go. Sorry to inform you, Vol Nation, from the horse's mouth itself, Trey Smith is not medically cleared. He did say that Trey Smith is a guy who loves to play football, and the doctors and the training staff were doing everything they could, working on a plan to get Trey Smith on the field before the football season starts. Um, so I think that's a positive. I know that last season, whenever he had to be pulled, put on the injured list, it was a lot of doom and gloom. It was, career ending. He's not coming back, and that was kind of the buzz that was flying around then. However, with what I heard today, it seems to me like we might see him this season. Whether that's in the first game or halfway through the season, I don't know. Whether it's in a limited role, if he's playing backup to somebody, I think that they'll do what they can to make sure that his health is the first priority, and that winning football games is number two, right up there with it. So, no medical clearance for Trey Smith yet, but looks like we could see him this year. Probably the biggest takeaway for me in this little 30-minute stint that he did there at the podium, when he stated that whenever he got to Tennessee, when he got to Knoxville, there were two guys on the offensive line on the roster that weighed over 300 pounds. As things sit today on the roster, there are 15 guys that weigh over 300 pounds. And this is huge for us. We all know that the big problem that we've had last year and the year before have been on the offensive line. So to put some more size on the offensive line is huge, and to put those kind of numbers up, going from two guys to 15, that's 13. That's an entire offense. That's more than 11 players. That's two full rotations of guys that weigh over 300 pounds. So putting some size on the offensive line is huge for a team that probably had more sacks than anybody else in the league last year. He did counter that by saying that weighing over 300 pounds doesn't make you a great football player, but it adds some depth to the offensive line, which is what this program's desperately needed. Another big takeaway: in the years past, during the May mini session where the guys are hitting the gym really hard and stuff, he said that the attendance has been around 20 players. Over this past summer, there were 60 guys in May that hung out, stayed on campus, didn't go home. They stayed in the weight room and worked on their physical conditioning. So that's huge. I think that speaks to the fact that the players are buying into what the program is trying to do, what the direction that they're trying to go, and that's always a good sign when the whole team's on board. So I think that's probably another major takeaway. Some of the negatives, he talked about being really thin at the QB spot. Most schools carry 4 or 5 QBs on campus at a time. We have 3 on campus, Guarantano, Shrout, and Maurer. So I think that probably what you want to pull out of that is that we're not going to see Guarantano running the ball a lot. They're going to be a little more conservative with what they do health-wise for Guarantano, so that we don't have to get too deep into the QB roster. That being said, James Chaney's offense is not really designed around quarterbacks running the ball. We all know that Guarantano's got the legs to get himself out of trouble if he gets into it, and if he can take a page out of the Chaney book and not hold on to the ball so long, I don't think it's going to be an issue anyways. But doomsday scenario, Guarantano goes down, that leaves us with a starting quarterback and a backup quarterback left on the roster. So definitely going to be important that offensive line does their job and protects the quarterback. Another negative that came out of what he said today was that the defensive line is very inexperienced. They've increased in size, so that's a plus, but we have one junior and one senior on the defensive line, and we are only carrying, I believe, 5 designated pass rushers. So that doesn't bode well for what the pass rush attack is going to look like over this next season. But there's some real experience and some real leadership at the linebacker position. I'm sure that the defensive staff there will be able to create some plays that might have to get a little creative, but they'll still put pressure on some quarterbacks throughout the year. And then the last thing that I took away from this stint at the podium was that Pruitt did a lot of recruiting in front of the cameras. It's one of those walking a tightrope kind of scenarios, but he just flat out said, at wide receiver, we're carrying 4 senior wide receivers right now. What does that do for recruiting? Well, he let the nation know that if you want to be a wide receiver and get some early playing time, University of Tennessee is a great spot to be, because we got 4 guys headed out the door. He kind of gave the same pitch to the cameras when it came to designated pass rushers. Most schools are carrying 8 or 9 designated pass rushers on the roster, and Tennessee's got 5. So again, he said early playing time. If you want to be a designated pass rusher, if you want to get to the quarterbacks, land at Tennessee. And I thought that, hey, that's a pretty good opportunity to kind of do a little recruiting without doing recruiting. So we'll see what comes of it if those positions start to bolster up a little bit in the recruiting landscape. So that's it. I just wanted to do a quick summation video, a little 8 or 9 minute video that you guys could watch on your phones or listen to in your headsets, for those of you that didn't get to watch it as it happened. So yeah, I mean, it's, spoiler alert, this is kind of the big summary of what happened. I'm sure most of you will get home and watch the recordings or watch the replays of Pruitt on the podium. But yeah, if you just want to know right now, I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity. Again, I'm Josh Griffin for the Volunteer Roadshow. You guys have a great afternoon, and go Vols.